It's what gets the blood pumping every morning here. We call it the 10-minute drill, so let's span the globe for the constant variety in sports. Beef will be our tour guide. And
I sure will.
I'll add instant analysis.
Instant analysis. Oh, by the way, at the end of the 10-minute drill, stay tuned.
Sure.
Unlucky Guggen going to go home with our 10-minute drill prize pack. Features $25 to Scrubbles Car Wash and a $25 gift card to Donato's Pizza. Jeff, last night,
nice.
Much to your chagrin, while your Braves were handling business against Dan's Mets, your Hawks looked fairly lifeless in Milwaukee.
I started the show today. It's a mixed feelings Friday. I got mixed feelings about a few different things. Look, I said this before. It's always tough on an athlete where his injury is described as one that you can't do any further damage. It's just all about the pain tolerance. That puts such a pressure because you don't know exactly what that means. Some pain is intolerable, by the way. There are very few people in the world that can, snap a leg in half and go play a football game and I think sometimes over the course of history, we've given some players and athletes too much credit for playing through a level of pain that may not have been there. I would be more concerned with Trae Young not playing if I thought that he was kind of haphazard about the sport, if he didn't have the passion, if he didn't love the game. But I feel pretty confident that Trae Young loves basketball. This is the funnest time to play. If you could play, you would play. And the same thing with Giannis, who had to sit out yesterday. Now, the Hawks were able to play without Trae Young. I think they might have got a little overconfident. And Milwaukee came out and just punched him right in the mouth.
They were so physical last night.
They got way ahead of him. They pushed him around. They dominated him in the paint. I mean, you let Herman Munster go for 33 points. Brook Lopez is not a good basketball player. I mean, put a body on the guy and hold him to what he's capable of. 16 points and 8 rebounds. You can't make Brook Lopez Shaq. They did that. You can't fall behind by 22 points in the NBA and expect to just swoop right back in. You usually can make a run, but at the end, they hold you off. And the Bucks got a big win at home last night. They had to have. They did it without their superstar, who they played so poorly with in the game before. And so now Atlanta goes back on their heels to play game 6 in Atlanta. And the only thing I will say for the burgeoning group of Hawks fans out there, I believe we're up to now 16 as we look to the Hawks tracker. We got 16 Atlanta Hawks fans now in town. And the only thing that I can give you is you better hope that by tomorrow afternoon, Saturday afternoon, that yours truly feels like the Hawks are going to lose. I've never been worse at my pregame thought or prediction on how the Hawks – it's happened the entire postseason. Maybe not the Knicks series. I thought they'd win all those games. But starting with the Sixers, I thought they'd lose game 1, they won. Thought they'd win game 3, they lost. Thought they'd lose game 5, they won. Thought they'd win game 6, they lost. Thought they'd win the game 7, they lost. I mean, it's been like that now nonstop. And this Milwaukee series has been no different. I didn't think they'd win game 1, they won. Then I thought they'd win game 3, they lost. Trae Young's hurt, I think they lose game 4, they win. Giannis is out, I think they win game 5, they lose. So I don't know what to tell you except this. You better hope, and that it's not contrived, that I really think that the Hawks are going to lose tomorrow night. And right now, I'm just not sure. And there's still some variables, particularly with the health of Giannis and Trae Young. But the Hawks didn't show up. And, man, in the NBA, against a team as good as the Hawks should know by looking in the mirror. If you're this far along in the playoffs, it ain't because of one dude. You have one dude who has allowed you to get that far, sure, but there are plenty of other pieces. The Hawks have them, and the Bucks have them. Listen, Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday are on the Olympic team.
Yeah, they're really good players.
They're really good players, and they both played good last night. And Bobby Portis has played very well in Giannis' stead, and the Bucks dominated. There was nothing fluky. The Hawks never really threatened to win. You never really felt like they were in shape to win, and so now it's another must-win situation for the Heart Attack Hawks.
It seems like regardless of who comes out of the East and regardless who wins the final series with Phoenix, that a very large portion of the basketball fan base is already looking at this playoff and this outcome as sort of tainted or with an asterisk because of all the injuries and almost like it wasn't really an earned title. And one Twitter user was making that impression, listing off the injured players that said this season is the real asterisk season, not the bubble. And of all people to reply, former Magic and Pelicans and Pistons head coach Stan Van Gundy replied. He said, "No asterisks. The challenges of the last 2 seasons may have been different from those of prior seasons, but the Lakers last year and whoever wins this year met those challenges better than everyone else. Champions with no asterisks." Are you inclined to agree with Stan, or do you feel like we're going to look back at this as kind of a tainted title?
Well, first thing I'm going to admit is I got some skin in the game here. I've got a team alive. You're going to tell me it's tainted?
Right.
I'm going to tell you
it's tainted?
I'm going to tell you you're number one. This is an ignorant argument, if you ask me. And main reason because look, we look at LeBron's title as tainted with
Last
Cleveland.
Year? Over Cleveland?
Yeah. When he was with Cleveland, did we look at the title? No, he's a hero. He went and won a series. Excuse me, didn't Kevin Durant go out that series? I mean, people get injured. And by the way, great players on both teams have been injured. It's almost equaled out. You could almost argue with as many injuries they've had, it's less tainted because so many teams are affected. It is an ignorant argument. I'm totally in line with Stan Van, and I'll say that when the Hawks lose because, by the way, Trae Young got hurt. Am I going to say, oh, this is an asterisk? Without Trae Young, we would have won. No, I'm not going to say that. He got hurt. Kawhi got hurt.
Guys get hurt.
Anthony Davis got hurt. Right? Guys get hurt. They get hurt in every sport. And I mean, the NBA with their asterisks, you sissy boys. Go look at an NFL's roster by the time they get to the Super Bowl. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs had to play the Super Bowl last year, missing their 2 starting left tackles. Did we asterisk Tom Brady's win? No. You adjust. How deep is your organization built? How do you deal with that adversity? Other factors have come in, but I can't. So tell me this, Beef, since it's so asterisk up, who's supposed to win?
Right.
I mean,
that's the counter argument. Like people say, well, the Lakers were a better team if healthy. The Nuggets were a better team if healthy. The Nets were a better team if healthy. They're all gone.
Yeah.
That's the argument. The Sixers were beat up.
Okay. Well,
right. But everyone's beat up.
Of course they are. Of course they are. The Hawks lost DeAndre Hunter, their second best player, before the Sixers series. Why did they win that series? You can't. That's an no. You play. So no, that is a stupid argument to me. I mean, just really, really dumb. Injuries are a part of sports, man, and there are plenty of good players still left. By the way, plenty of them. Chris Paul, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, Giannis, Middleton, Drew Holiday, Trae Young, John Collins, Bogdanovich, Capella, plenty of good players. So, no.
Look, Jeff, I know you're a bigger golf fan than I think a lot of people, but while the action was on the course in Detroit, all the talk was on what was going on off the course, namely drama with 2 of the sport's biggest names, Phil Mickelson coming out saying he's never going back there after a story published in Detroit about some gambling shenanigans more than 15 years ago. And then the real drama, the fireworks yesterday before the first round when Bryson DeChambeau's caddy quit. And, of course, quick to seize an opportunity, DeChambeau's number 1 rival and bitter enemy, Brooks Koepka, quickly named yesterday Caddy Appreciation Day and fired off a tweet. Couldn't do it without my guy Rick, best friend and greatest caddy to do it. Rick Elliott, Appreciation Day.
Well, and again, that's just an absolute, salvo at Bryson DeChambeau. Listen, I don't know if we look in amazement enough at these caddy golf relationships that thrive and survive for years and years and years. I don't. But that being said, Bryson DeChambeau would have to be one of the more difficult players to work with. And not because he's a bad person. I'm not buying. He's odd, right? He's a little awkward. He's a strange guy. He's not just he's not quote unquote normal. But I don't find him to be like obnoxiously repulsive or but the difficulty with DeChambeau is he's just so nutty professor. I mean, when you go to the range with DeChambeau, you got to take like Bunsen burners and science labs, right?
It's a whole thing.
Books of charts and graphs that Columbus used to sail the 7 seas. I mean, it would just be a little much. And he does run odd. I still remember the video of Bryson DeChambeau at the British Open banging his head off the bleachers because he was frustrated. By the way, not after a bad shot or a bad score or a bad round, but after a bad driving range session. What about a couple of weeks ago where DeChambeau thought he missed the cut? Hey, if you're a pro on private jets, big deal if you turn around and come back. But if you're the caddy, who, by the way, doesn't often fly with the pro and the pro, he's flying commercial. If you're the caddy and you left, you got to turn right around and come back. That's a pain. Now, I would still say, even with all that, it's characterized that the caddy, quote, quit. But I wonder. I mean, you can put up with that when you have a golfer, when you're riding a horse that wins as much money as Bryson DeChambeau does. So that's the other side. If you're a good, accomplished caddy, it might feel awesome to work with Hank Lebioda, but he ain't going to pay the bills like Bryson DeChambeau did. So be interested to see when the rumors come out as to what exactly led to the split. But I'm sure you're a burro, man, when you're a caddy. It's a demanding job, and these guys expect you to wait on them hand and foot in many cases. So that doesn't surprise me. As for the Mickelson, our buddy Glenn Cohen, summed it up perfectly. And then Mickelson responded yesterday, but here's what Cohen said. Here's what happened. The Detroit Free Press ran an article rehashing some gambling issue that Mickelson had 20 years ago. It was terrible tabloid clickbait journalism. There was no news in it. I'd be offended too. So let me tell you what first Glenn Cohen, who is Phil's attorney, is quoted as saying, and then what Mickelson actually said himself yesterday. Cohen said, first of all, by the way, it was published this week in the Detroit News, federal court records from 2007. And Mickelson was a victim in this too, by the way. He didn't do anything wrong, but a Michigan-based bookie allegedly cheated Mickelson out of $500,000. Well, then it comes in. That wasn't today's age and era. There was still a stain on gambling, and it was illegal if you weren't in Las Vegas. So it was, the gambling was a little more taboo there when this story originally came out. But it came out, and we talked about it then.
I remember.
Yeah. So here's what Glenn said. I'm disappointed they would curiously pick this week to write an article about a bet that was made over 20 years ago and a jury trial that took place in 2007 where the guy who was convicted is dead and where the only purpose for this article is to embarrass Phil Mickelson. Now, I know Glenn you don't agree with Glenn every time he says something here on the radio, gang. I get that. But he's spot on there.
No, publishing this article the week that the tour is in Detroit.
Right.
It's 100% a hit.
And by the way, Mickelson just won the PGA. He's doing your town a solid.
Right. He doesn't have to be there.
Of course not.
This is not nearly a big enough event that he has to be there.
Of course not. We got a British Open in 2 weeks. Phil could be, cruising Scotland with Amy right now, drinking warm Guinness if he wanted. He didn't have to be in Detroit. By the way, Detroit, this just in, you're a hellhole. Right. Who wants to come there?
No one wants to go there.
You should be happy that he's there. And then you got some newspaper dork writing this like he's, ooh, look at me. Yeah, look at you. You cost your town in your golf tournament one of the biggest names in the sport for future reference. Nice job rehashing a 20. It's not like you did anything new either. You rehashed a 20-year-old story. Well, here's what Mickelson said yesterday. And good for you. Look, sometimes I will put this on athletes. I had too thin skin, look at the bigger picture. But this was just such a hit piece. And by the way to read the room, Detroit Free Press. Mickelson is like the feel-good story in sports right now. Certainly one of them. Yeah, let's dog him.
Right.
Well played.
Let's run out a hit piece.
Do you even have a sports editor? Would be my question. Here is what Mickelson said, and yeah, he's not gonna hide from the fact of you're gonna come at me like that. Well, to hockey sticks with you. Mickelson quote: "It was so much effort for me to be here and to have that type of unnecessary attack. Not like I care. It happened 20-something years ago, but it's just a lack of appreciation. Yeah, I don't see that happening. I don't see me coming back. Not that I don't love the people here. They've been great, but not with that type of thing happening."
Right. It's not worth it.
Now, the other side of that is he's 51 years old. His game may not be in shape to play in this tournament in the future. He did shoot 69 yesterday, so the Detroit Free Press, go ahead and, load up on those hatchet pieces, you're going to have them around for another 3 days.
And lastly, Jeff.
Yes, sir.
Before we sign off, because we always talk about sports, but sometimes things are a lot bigger than that. A guy I think we all universally like a whole lot. Yesterday, Mark Richt on his Twitter, he put out a statement. He said, I've been waddling around lately and people have asked me what's wrong. I've decided to tell everyone at the same time. I have been diagnosed with Parkinson's. He said, truthfully, I look at it as a momentary light affliction compared to the future glory in heaven. Thank you, Jesus, for promising us a future blessing of a glorified body that has no sin and no disease. In the meantime, I am going to enjoy the blessings that I do have. See you on the ACC Network.
Well, Mark Riggs is definitely a man of faith, right? And, for those that question people of faith and what's in it for them or whatever cynical view each of us have about different issues, there's one of the comforts right there. And to a person of faith, that's not some fairy tale, wrap yourself up in myth. That's a promise. And so a guy like Mark Richt, a guy like Bob Tebow, right? Tim's father was diagnosed almost positive with Parkinson's a couple of years ago. You have that security blanket around you that you can handle these things with that kind of attitude and with that kind of enthusiasm because you believe that. You take comfort in that. That's literally how the phrase "take comfort" is displayed in life. So, prayers for Mark Richt. I'm not a doctor here, but I'm pretty sure Parkinson's is somewhat manageable, right? I don't know if you can continue with the communications career going forward. I don't know exactly how it manifests, but isn't Parkinson's what Michael J. Fox has been?
Yeah, I think I'm not an expert either, but I think usually it's kind of a slow progressing thing.
It's not a killer, though, right? It's not like,
right. So you can sort of, like,
sure.
You can manage it for a while.
Gotcha.
It'll kind of get progressively worse.
Who was it? Was it...
Michael J. Fox continued acting for a long time.
For a while, and he still
shows up here and there, but...
Who is the guy, not on Golden Pond, what's her name? Didn't she have Parkinson's?
Oh, jeez.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
African Queen. Who is that actress? She's famous. Who is that?
I'm having the worst.
You know what I'm talking
fart.
about, right?
Yes, I'm having the worst.
African Queen is like a famous movie
right now. Yes,
that's with Humphrey Bogart and her. What is her name?
Hepburn.
Yeah, Katharine Hepburn.
Yeah.
I
was having the worst.
Yeah.
The worst, mental block.
Sure.
Absolutely fried.
All right. Well, there you go.
It's from mostly the drinking.
All right. There we go. We've attacked the headlines, as it were. That's the 10-minute drill. When we come back on the other side, I'm going to load you up with a football fix. ESPN has asked their embedded reporters, here that means friend of the program, Mike Duraco, what one roster move should their team be making? And by there, I mean the one they cover. I agree with the D-Rocks. This player, this particular move interests me. And I think he will be a real good fit here. And I'm curious if maybe this is something that might play out. So I'll tell you about that storyline, who this player is, who this potential target is, and the rest of the news from the NFL in a football fix. It's coming up next on an All-American Friday.
Right now, I'll take caller number 3 at 641-1010, and you're going home with today's 10-minute drill prize pack featuring a $25 gift card to Donato's Pizza and $25 to Scrubbles Car Wash.